submitted for your approval. A fan-based show who encompasses the multi-twined multiverse of superheroes, villains, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and action comedy. All whose genesis stems from the printed page of the comic book. At the logo streaming towards your head, you've just entered into Comics, Cons, and Beyond. Welcome back, comic book fans, to Comics, Cons, and Beyond. Everything for your multi-twined multiverse delivered. And again, it's your fangasm. We're just trying to do our best to provide the foreplay. Today in the news, guess what, gang? That's right. Hot off the New York Comic Con, it has been introduced that the animated feature of Batman, The Return of the Caped Crusaders, has been launched. That's right, coming into streaming video services on demand as well as Blu-ray DVD. And guess who's going to be a part of it?
Adam Wee?
Kind of. It would be Adam West, Burt Ward. Yeah. Well, no, Adam Wee, it'd be Adam West.
No, I'm
You know, the original Batman.
It was a joke on the show with the thing.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
All right,
And that's why we have Adam here. Not Adam West, of course. We just have Adam.
I can believe in myself.
Well, of course. Yeah, why not? But also Julie Newmar. That's right. Julie Newmar is going to be a part of it. She took over for Eartha Kitt for the Catwoman role. And this animated series is just as fun, just as campy as the original television series of the 60s and pays homage to the original villains. That's right. The, what did they call them? The Gallery of Rogues. That's right. The Joker was played by Cesar Romero. You had Frank Gorshin, who played the Riddler, and Burgess Meredith, who played the Penguin. That's right. And you know what? Burgess Meredith got his start on what iconic television anthology series?
It's a riddle to me.
Let's see.
Riddle me
Brady
this.
Bunch?
Well, no, not Brady Bunch. Actually, Twilight Zone. That's right. Twilight Zone, created by the master himself, Rod Serling. Also, there is a sequel that is in the works. Yes. And guess who's going to be making a special vocal appearance voicing the voice of Harvey Dent and Two-Faced?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Shatner?
That is right. William Shatner is lending his voice to the character of Harvey Dent and Two-Face. It should be epic. Elsewhere in the news, Bob?
Well, one thing that obviously we want to wind up touching on, I think, is pretty integral to the months to come here, is a pretty integral topic to movies, is the new Doctor Strange film that's coming out.
Ooh, yes,
Obviously, we've seen a little bit of the teaser trailers for that, and it's obviously building up some hype. A little bit of that, I think, the way I'm viewing it here, is kind of looks like Inception.
I was getting that vibe, especially from the scene with the cities rolling into each other. That's why I'm excited for most of the grandiose views they're going to try to express. Like the other Avengers, they were trying to have as many characters, or the Avenger films are, they were trying to have as many characters in films, as much action. This is going to be insane visuals. Because Doctor Strange has always been about, not psychedelic, I want to say.
Well, they dropped a lot of acid.
Well, who wouldn't? I'm saying. You have a cape like that, it's for a reason.
I think it's definitely going to bring a lot to the table. It's a lot of excitement. I think there's one thing that a lot of people are seeing as controversial here, as well as some of the actors that they have playing certain roles.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is correct. As the movie studios usually do, they do mess with our beloved characters. However, it still looks like it might be a good movie.
No, absolutely. It's definitely going to wind up bringing something integral to the Marvel Universe, winding up to Thanos. So
yeah.
The new clone conspiracy is rolling out by Dan Slott's new Spider-Man. Got me a little bit excited, something I can actually turn to and not kind of feel a little bit confused with new Civil War kind of winding down to an end and confusing the hell out of me for the most part. A lot of twists from the reviews that I've seen thus far. I'm not going to ruin anything in particular, but we'll get to see.
Don't ruin it, please.
Well, we'll get to see the relationship with Ant-Man and her husband what winds down with that, as well as the Jackal is going to make a return as well. So we get to look forward to a definitely new Spider-Man, hopefully, and as well as maybe an elaboration on what happened to Dr. Octopus.
Ooh. We at Comics Cons and Beyond want to kind of give a special shout out to who we feel are the true superheroes of the world. The positive thinkers and dreamers, our educators, environmentalists, first responders, emergency personnel, law enforcement, but most importantly, something that's really near and dear to our hearts, the brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces. Here at Comics Cons and Beyond, we really feel strongly about this, and we want to give a special Cc&B dedication to each and every one of you guys and gals who are out there every single day, and for what your families go through every single day protecting our great nation. So on behalf of Comics Cons and Beyond, this Cc&B is for you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Good stuff. Thank you.
Hi, comic book fans. I'm Robert Callahan. Most of you guys will come to know me as Bob. A little bit about myself, what got me into comic books. 1992, 1 year after I was conceived or brought into the light of the world.
Make me feel old.
Todd McFarlane wound up coming out with Spawn. Big fan of mine. Dad was really into art, really into drawing things himself, so we went out there, picked those up. Obviously, that kind of wound up steamrolling into Venom, which obviously he wound up contributing a large part to, as well as Spider-Man. We wound up rolling out to Comic-Con. We met Todd McFarlane. I got a couple things signed by him. Spectacular, just entire environment in general. Now it's exploded into what it is today. And then obviously when I hit college, made a little bit more money in my pocket. Then I've been a nonstop comic book fan. So here we are, and hopefully you'll get to enjoy a little bit of the experience that I've had.
Storylines now have a better medium with streaming services.
Oh, hands down.
Yes.
Can't go on about that enough. It's the characters actually get motive, as opposed to just being, this is what's expected of a person, this is what I should do. They have motive behind their actions. I'm sorry, yes, I have powers. Well, I personally have powers. I just start robbing stuff. I'd be a supervillain in like 20 minutes. But other good people, they would probably do nothing with their powers. But in the Netflix ones, I actually understand the reason why they make their choices.
And we actually have time to elaborate on that.
Yeah,
we don't have to wind up
exactly.
rushing it in just 2 hours when we can wind up watching hours and hours of goodness.
And,
Can't
and
do
having
much,
studios butcher the crap out of the characters and storylines that we love. What started this all, not only the major networks, with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and you have the Flash, Gotham, Supergirl that just came out, what have you, kind of testing the waters. But Netflix with Daredevil, Marvel's Daredevil, and Marvel Studios actually taking charge of that, which is very, very nice. Now, the third season's coming. The first 2 seasons were phenomenal. Loved them. I think the character development for there, especially Kingpin,
Oh, he was so
Vincent
good.
D'Onofrio.
Oh, that
Who can't love
character.
it?
I mean,
love
Vincent
a villain.
D'Onofrio, Private Pile of Full Metal Jacket. You gotta love it. Pal, did you have any blah, 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 blah? You know how that went. You watched it. Stanley Kubrick directed it. It was good. But he plays a brutal but collective Kingpin. I enjoyed it.
I loved about him is that he tried to ensure it didn't go down that way. Like things went awry to him. Whereas normally it's like, oh, the villain's plans are thwarted. He's like, I tried to do everything right by everyone. I tried to keep this civil. I tried to be the lesser of 2 evils, which is the most human character you could possibly have as being a villain, because doing evil for evil's sake doesn't really make sense. But he was just trying to get his. That's my opinion.
Well, not only that, but I think he definitely set the stage for a lot of what we expect in these streaming villains to come. I mean, obviously there's been the release of Luke Cage here that we've recently wound up seeing, which is going to be something we wind up talking on a bit. But I think that it's great that as Kingpin, he wound up making that villain something that's going to be integral to the storyline for all streaming all the new heroes that are coming out. Obviously, Jessica Jones is another one we
Yep,
wound up touching
yep.
on, which is
And
a great
that's going to
story.
be another season coming up, which is leading to the
Defenders. But first and foremost, obviously, before we wind up doing that, they have wound up releasing a decent amount of footage on Iron Fist, which definitely excites us now with
Little hints in the
Luke
series.
Cage kind of winding down, which in my opinion was, I mean, a little bit definitely brought a little bit light to that character. Luke Cage enjoyed it. Didn't know that much about him, and that's great. I mean, honestly, now we get to look forward to another season of Luke Cage, and as well as what to see from the Defenders as well.
Yeah. The thing that I think is incredible is, again, this is setting the path of what is going to be the future. You're still going to have the major studios cranking out the 2.5 to maybe 3 hour movies. You got Doctor Strange, obviously, that's in post production, that's going to be coming out. But there's other movies that are slated all the way to 2025, for God's sakes. 2025. So that's not going to go away. However, if you really want to get into the essence of what the characters are, how they began, which I think the Netflix series are keeping truer to the characters and storylines as much as they possibly can. A lot of Easter eggs pay homage to the original printed works, which is actually kind of fun. This is allowing that to happen. So it's going to be interesting to see how that comes about in the next couple years with more and more Marvel characters coming to Netflix. Now, I want to pose a question. With Captain America Civil War and the introduction again of a new Spider-Man, Sony is wising up and saying, ooh, even though we own the rights and we weren't really playing nice with Marvel and what have you, this could be good for us. Do you think it'll come to the point where they will allow, since again, Daredevil and the Punisher, who was introduced in the Daredevil series, was introduced, do you think they will allow Spider-Man to come into the Netflix Marvel television or streaming universe?
I mean, I definitely think, as far as news goes, the Spider-Man is definitely something that they might wind up paying homage to. I mean, as we've seen, they're not afraid of introducing that kind of event, the New York event, or anything that's happened in the actual Avengers movies, to be left out of those storylines, which is definitely a bleed over. We can definitely see that. As far as seeing Spider-Man stand alone streaming, I think that there may be a little bit more Sony wants to hold on in the big budget for filming, but it's definitely something they may wind up having, like an illusion of Spider-Man maybe in the film, like a quick swing by in a frame or two. I think that's not something.
Off in the distance.
Or maybe a villain hanging up in the middle of the street at some point. I think that's something that we could definitely wind up seeing.
We'll see.
But the Ghost Rider, Robbie Reyes, is the one that they want to bringing into the show at the forefront, not Johnny Blaze that we're all accustomed to. I think the way they want to do kind of bring in this Ghost Rider is to make him a family man, kind of make it so that he's not solitary like most Ghost Riders have been in the past. Make it so everybody can sit down during the week and relate, I guess, would be a good thing to do on television. Not just have some guy going around stealing people's souls. So that's...
Because, come on. Nothing says relate to me like stealing my soul.
Your relationship might be a little bit different than my interpretation of what a relationship entails, but...
That's why they call it soulmates for life.
Well... Sure. Let's go with that. But yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting endeavor. I think it's a good way to kind of keep making it relevant. Obviously, we'll see where they go from here, whether or not they continue going down that pathway or something that they might end up continuing to cameo.
Yeah, and also too, speaking of Marvel failures, Doomed, the documentary about Roger Corman's failed 1994 Fantastic Four movie, is coming. That's right, it's coming to DVD and video on demand this coming month. And you will be able to see this documentary, the behind the scenes on this god-awful rendition. Now, Roger Corman is a master of the B-rated horror movies. He's had a very extensive career. but this one, unfortunately, just didn't quite make it. But the documentary should prove to be very, very interesting, informative, and see what the attempt was, how they attempted it, and, kind of paved the way for future comic book to movie adaptations. And actually, there is also Superhero Tech, which was a series a few years ago. I believe it was on the Science Channel with Stan Lee. And we are getting closer and closer to actual webbing that, if Spider-Man was real, would use.
I gotta point out one of the episodes of the show, Superhuman. There was a really sick episode about an actual sword master who lived in the entire style of Bushido his entire life, and so they wanted to see how fast he could cut something, right? So the first test, I forget who that we had pitch against him, but he managed to cut the ball. He did that on several perfect occasions, right? And then they wanted to up the ante and have him get shot at with a non-lethal rubber slug, and he cut the end of it off. It wasn't
Holy
even just like he
crap.
stood there and wound up. It was like he literally drew and struck. Right? It's an awesome episode of that entire
Wow.
series. Just you gotta check it out.
And then he got hit by it and fell over.
Oh no.
Well, that kind of
Passed
would be
by
the
him.
ending of the
Split perfectly.
ending of the episode right
Raised
there.
his
Yeah.
face.
We gotta have one little cut
Yeah.
of blood right there on the cheek. It was just an awesome episode of that show. I do have to point out.
And that's it for us for right now. That's right. Stay tuned for our next video, and like this one on the bottom of the screen here. Like it, subscribe to us, and most importantly, tell a friend. For Comics, Cons, and Beyond, we'll see you next time.